Welcome to Now for Someone Completely Interesting. I'm your host, Ben Poulin. My guest has been recommended for this podcast multiple times, and it's incredible because he's only lived in our community for about a year and has made that positive of an impact. I have to thank our mutual friend and recent guest, Linda Sahlstrom, for sending out an email to introduce and connect us. So in that email, she said some nice things about me and then outlined some very impressive professional background information about Khurram. Starting with that, he's an IT project manager, has an MBA in innovation, circular economy, blockchain researcher, cloud developer, and most notable, he's the driving force behind St. Paul and District STEAM Society, which in short has a mission to enhance and develop science activities in the Lakeland. Of course, there's much more to it than that, but that's why I have my guest here, who in our brief conversation setting up this show captivated me and I found completely interesting. So of course he's here, Khurram Abbasi. Thank you so much for inviting us into your house, the coffee, the atmosphere, and agreeing to come on the show.
Well, thank you. I'd like to thank you for giving me the chance to speak. And it's amazing to have you over, not only at my house, but in the community as well. I've seen the work that you do, and this is amazing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you so much. So, of course, this is the first time we're meeting face-to-face. We've had a brief email, some text, and a phone conversation. So I guess we kind of have to start with maybe a little bit about your background and how you ended up here in St. Paul. So,
yeah, you bet. The longer version or the shorter version?
Whichever one you think is necessary. It's your show.
The shorter version is, I was in Calgary. I worked for Alberta Health Services, and basically what brought me to town is my wife. She is a medical doctor,
Okay.
and a GP per se. But we've been, she has been, I think, trying to get into the system for the last decade almost. It took her about 10 years, passing all the exams, making all the stringent requirements. And finally, when she got the opportunity, it was here in St. Paul. So there was like no brainer.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's go to St. Paul.
So basically, this is the first her first posting out of medical school.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's what kind of brought you guys here.
Exactly.
Okay, some of the things that were mentioned in that email that Linda had passed on to us to, I guess, give me a bit of background. There's an impressive education in your repertoire there. Innovation, circular economy. What is that?
So, master's in innovation and circular economy. Circular economy is a European equivalent of sustainability in North America, what we call. So the base idea is for hundreds of years, since the invention of the assembly line, we have been making things. We have been taking things from the environment. Mm-hmm. We've been making things. And then when we make things and we use them for a little while, we throw them away. So it's always has been like over the last 100 years, we take things from the environment, we make things, we use them for a bit, and then we throw them away. And away could be just, again, like in the garbage, but as long as it's away from our eyes, right? So that has had an incredible, disastrous impact on our environment, right? It worked good for our economy. Mm-hmm. But it did take us back. So over the last, I think, 20 to 30 years, there has been like studies on how we can learn from the environment itself and do things accordingly in our manufacturing practices.
Okay.
So a lot of my MBA was on, how can we not really waste things? That's the bottom line. A simple example is, for example, back in the days, we used to have you'd go to the supermarket and you'd get your milk containers, your glass containers, and not use the plastic containers. So you utilize that. So the MBA primarily focused on what are some of those practices which we can bring back,
right,
so we can reduce the use of plastics, reduce the use of things that are not really recyclable, and putting that into engineering design, putting that into the world around us.
So if I'm understanding it, like in my mind, is this a way to make, I guess, to use my layman's terms, like recycling more economically viable as a business into itself, maybe then, instead of
100%.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. So our mantra in the MBA was, hey, okay, so we've been, as humans trying to recycle more ethically,
yeah,
which is fine. I mean, yeah, we all work on that moral ground. If we put a financial incentive into it, that we can
Right.
actually, so the biggest tagline was, there's more money to make in the waste than new products.
right,
The electronics that we have sitting at our home, that is becoming or turning our cities and our towns into mines, right? It's just how we can reutilize that. So it's making money. Example was how we could make money out of coffee beans.
right.
Yeah, the wasted coffee beans. So there's a whole business proposal for that. There's, you start collecting the coffee beans, not the coffee beans, sorry, the coffee waste from restaurants,
Right.
and how you could make some vertical growth of mushrooms within your home through using hydroponics.
We may be going down a whole other podcast rabbit hole here. So there's a lot more I want to discuss, because this is fascinating. You're like, I don't think I've ever heard it presented that way, as far as when people talk about environmental ethics and that kind of stuff. But to put it in a frame of mind where, hey, it's actually, maybe there's a whole business here that not only benefits the environment but benefits the pocketbooks as well, because that's always, I think, I mean, let's face it, that's one of the most important things when we're we're looking at
and one more important thing there is really the decentralization that you see in the economy. Like, you see a lot of entrepreneurs, which we'll talk about later as well, on how and why I started this program. Was even in my generation, it was like, okay, you go to school, you find a good job, right? And you basically become that that term that we're all becoming factory workers, right? Our education is primed for that. So we were not encouraging, for example, as much as our South partners, the U.S., which is far more on entrepreneurship and start your own thing, right?
Yeah.
Versus, hey, okay, you get the education, you go, you work in a 9 to 5, right? But I think that trend has been aggressively changing in the last 10 years, where you see young 20-year-old, 22-year-old millionaires,
right.
even within Canada, right? Because why? That concept of, hey, you could start up something of your own, right?
Yeah.
You have the resources. The world is kind of primed for that. So you just need to be having the right technology right early on. There's no boundaries on education at the moment. Your grade 10, grade 11 kids are making and inventing things out of their bedrooms, out of their garages, right?
Yeah.
So why not jump onto that culture?
Before we move forward here, so I got to take a step back. So how did you get into this kind of an education background? Like, is this something that was always when you were growing up, that kind of, or is it, when you started moving up and out in the world, that it kind of...
Moving out in the world. So I had, I'd say, a rather really pampered childhood. So I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, I grew up in a power plant colony, which was luxury and whatever. And basically we were never taught of, hey, yeah, you need to turn off the lights, or why?
Right.
Because electricity is so cheap and whatever, right? It's more when you start coming out and getting older, and you're like, whoa, okay, relax. The power that I am not turning off is producing those greenhouse gases, which is warming up the environment, which is in fact warming up our oceans, which is also warming up the wildlife. So the sushi that I so much love, I can eat, but 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road, my kids won't have that. And just that fear of, oh my God, the world is not going to be the same when my kids would grow up. in
Right.
terms of natural resources, it's scary. And that realization came in after, of course, I had my wasteful youth past.
Well, that is interesting into itself. That you would come from a background where environmental consciousness wasn't that important, and then when you get out in the world. So when you grew up, like you said, you grew up in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And where did you go from there? You mentioned Germany while we were setting up, and
Yeah, so I grew up in Saudi Arabia, did my grade 12, went back to Pakistan for a year of electrical engineering, then migrated to Canada. My dad didn't come. He was still printing Saudi reals, so he didn't want to come. So it was I was the oldest in the family. So we came to Canada. I did my bachelor's out of York, out in the east, Toronto.
okay,
I did that, and then still for a long time my first job was with IBM. It's a good global IT company. Life was good, and then as I got married and I started having kids, I was like, hey, no, environment is becoming like a concern. So I started exploring a little bit more, and then I understood the difference with North America. We focus a lot on sustainability. So how can we increase the life of an already made object or a product? Whereas some of the European countries, Scandinavian countries, like they are ahead of the game. Like they're like, hey, yeah, you can create a product that might not last you long, but why not we go back to the design process? I'll give you a small example. Why don't we go back to the design process and improve that? I'll give you an example. For example, is when you have a colored label on a product that you get home, that is harder to recycle anyways
right,
because of the pigments and all. So why have all that fancy coloring when all you want is really a product?
yeah,
My dad is really into sustainability, and he teases me on, hey, when you go buy those bananas, why do you put them in that extra plastic bag? Why? Like it's maybe
Yeah.
some people do, some people don't, right? But that was like the wake up call. Oh my God, like the smaller things that one person can do to kind of, hey, no, this is not needed, and not just fall into like the regular stream. You start focusing on smaller things, and then you're like, wow, how can I actually make a drastic change in it? And by meaning drastic changes, I love the idea that, yeah, recycling is just not moral thing to do. You can actually make a lot of money out of it.
right,
Yeah.
right. So okay, we might have to do another episode just on that alone, because I do want to talk about one of the main reasons why your name has come up several times. A couple of my past guests have brought it up, and a lot of people in the community have talked about it, and that is the St. Paul and District STEAM Society. So first of all, I just want to break down a little bit. STEAM is an acronym in itself, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so it's sorry, can you?
Yeah, so STEAM stands for, basically it came from STEM, but both of them, they stand for, S is for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
Okay,
And the idea behind that is early on in your education, in our junior high and even earlier than that, we started introducing, hey, how are these 4 or 5 things linked to your curriculum? We cover all the concepts individually in science and math. We have arts, right? We have a little bit of engineering as we go into middle school. But how is that all like linked? How's my science really linked to my math? When you go out in the real world, of course it is.
yeah,
Right? But when you're a grade 6, grade 7 student, yeah, you're like, oh, no, nah. I mean, I don't know. Like, well, I hate math, right?
now you're talking my language.
Right? I hate, like, why do I have to know who was Newton and the apple fell? Like, why? Right? But when you put a project-based STEM and STEAM curriculum into your school, or even after school, the kids start to make or connect those dots,
Right.
and it improves their not only academics but the actual value what we're trying to get out of education, which is, hey, you're getting educated, to do something better than what we did, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we're educating you, our kids, to do things better, not
Right.
just exactly the same way what we did or what our parents or the grandparents did, right? So STEAM and STEM is an alternative education method where it's more project based.
Right.
You'll think of a project and you'll see how each science, technology, engineering, math is applied to that project. And all the projects that you do have to have a little bit of each.
Right.
And when the kids see that, they go back. They're like, oh, this makes sense. I need to have a little bit of, that math focus on, because I need to calculate the area of this, or I need to know the volume of this. Because we're building something, we're building a car that has this wheel, right? And the wheel, you would need that area.
Yeah.
That's why it's important. And then they start,
Okay, so you started the St. Paul and District STEAM Society here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Was this something that just kind of evolved in your mind, or are there societies like this across the country that you experienced and just saw that it would be beneficial for our area?
Oh, it's very relevant out in Calgary.
Okay.
If I was back in Calgary, I wouldn't have probably started because there are so many.
Right. Okay.
Right. So when I came in to town, even within the first week, I was thinking, hey, I'll find a science club and
Right.
I'll get my kids into it. And then I couldn't find one, and so I thought I talked to a couple of people at that time. The only people I knew was Maureen Donnelly, or Honorable Mayor, and just one more person. And then they started giving me, hey, no, there is a need. I started a Facebook group just within the first week of Arrival. I'm like, hey, I want to put my kids on. This community is really active on Facebook, very helpful too. So I said, no, there's none, or you could try like the online ones, and I wasn't happy with the online ones. So then I started asking, hey, is there a need? What if I start one? And then a couple of people kind of said, oh, that'll be great. And then 2 weeks later, there was this opening night. What do you call it? It's happening again. This awareness, community
awareness. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the folks said, hey, you should probably have a table. And by that time, I had like nobody. So I had created a Facebook group. So it's a couple of people, they were kind enough to say, oh, yeah, it's great. We can help. So I had like 3 or 4 people, a few kids.
Yeah.
And we just opened, we just had a table at the community awareness night. And guess what? More than 40 families signed up for our first program, which was Minecraft for Education. Yeah.
Wow. And that's it seemed to gain momentum and traction really quickly in this town. So obviously the support members were right about the need for it. I guess if you can't find a club, start a club, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is some of the, like, what did I say, or how did Linda word it there? I want to make sure that it's a mission to enhance and develop science, but it's a lot more than that. Like, what are some of the projects, or what are some of the other aspects of this club or society?
Okay, so it's I can answer that, but if you give me a couple of minutes on what was the vision on this was, so when I came into town, of course, first week, second week, I started making friends, right? My neighbors, their neighbors, their friends, whatever, the block parties. And I realized, hey, in this town, we have, if I want to start this club, what are the strengths of this town?
Okay.
And the strength, number one, is out of 10 people, 4 of them are above 50 years old, right?
Right.
And 4 of them are under 20. So it's like what What is the other age group? It's about 2.5 people, right?
Right.
So I was like, okay, these are the bigger demographic groups. People above 50, they have accomplished a lot in their lives, right? They know a lot of technology. They know a lot of the world and how it operates. And then there's the under 21s, right? Which are kind of still figuring their way up in the world. That was one aspect. The other one was really how are they? What are some of the challenges the town is facing? And one of the common themes was, hey, as the children grow past 18 and 20, they leave and then they don't come back.
Right.
Right. So that was another one. Okay. So I was like, okay, these two things, what can we do how can this club kind of help in that regard? So now coming to like the vision was then, okay, I want to explore. I myself am a software engineer, right? And I am good with technology. I've worked for larger corporations. And I was like, okay, how can I put that to use for our younger generation? And how can we keep our older generation involved too? So the first idea was, as we grow older, we start hating technology a little bit. It's just over, like centuries or decades, right?
Yeah.
It's always the younger generation is always ahead in technology. Not because, for example, like they would be smarter enough, but for example, as we grow older, we're like, yeah, we focus on
we become comfortable in our world and our habits
as well.
And I think new stuff. I'm getting to that age. New stuff scares me.
Yeah, that's one way of looking. The way I look at it is I think we start paying attention to more things that are important,
Right.
like humans, our connection with the family, right? As we're younger, we tend not to as much as we.
Right.
So generally, when you are focusing on people, in my opinion, like it's less screen time. It's more talking. It's more.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that. That is a strength of your elder group, right? And then the younger group, they're really fast and like, okay, from like Snapchat to games to technology to computers to like all of that stuff. So they are really good at that. How do we connect them?
Right.
How do we connect them while doing science? So that was the first idea. Okay, Minecraft. Minecraft is like is a video game, although it goes back to the we grew up with Legos, right?
Yeah.
So it's like building blocks, but now you're just doing it on the computers. Now, convincing my children to do Lego versus Minecraft, of course, Minecraft wins more
Right.
with the kids, unfortunately, because it's whatever screen and it's more collaborative. So kids want to do Minecraft. The elder generation, they don't want to do anything with the computers, but they do want to spend time with the kids.
Right.
So you create a program where kids are doing Minecraft, sure, they're games, but they're building something purposeful. For example, our first program was, let's build St. Paul. Let's build the houses in there. Let's build smart houses.
Right.
That was our first program. So in the first one, we didn't have much older population, but as the second one was, okay, now we have a town. How can we put power into it? So how can we create either windmills or hydropower plants? I'm talking grade 5 and 6 and 7 students. So we would give them some literature to review, videos and all, to prepare for the class. And when they come in for 1 hour, they're building the windmills. Now, with a couple of videos, of course, they cannot really go into the detail. That's where the older population came in too. So they would be like helping, hey, why don't you do this? Or can you do this?
Yeah.
Right? So you're kind of building that where our seniors, they have that time to kind of sit in, enjoy what the kids are doing. At the same time, kind of building that rapport on, hey, I enjoyed that hour because I was able to tell the kids something and they got excited too because there's a little healthy competition on who builds the best, right? So that kind of worked. It was an experiment. It kind of worked. And that really laid foundation to our future programs too, which included building a spacecraft, the NASA station, and that got into 3D printing. So that kind of evolved on its own, where we're kind of still getting that help from our older generation.
See, I didn't know. I thought this was strictly something just for the younger kids, like junior high kids, to just develop some extra science education. I didn't realize you were bridging generation gaps with this as well. Like that's
the right word.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Because again, at the end of the day, what are we? We are people.
Yeah.
What's our best resource? It's our people, right?
Yeah.
And when do we perform best? When we come together.
Yeah.
When we don't create those, kind of bridges. Oh, this guy is too old, or this guy is too young, or it's Gen Z versus Gen X or Gen whatever.
Yeah.
Right? No, it's not that. Yeah, sure. For talking terms, yeah. But honestly, at the end of the day, when all our generations are together, that's how you build that. In my mind, right? That's how you build that synergy.
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I just don't know of any other program that was looking to collaborate generationally like this. We all have our little niches. Like in sports, you stick to your age group, right? You know, whether you're minor hockey, you're playing junior hockey, or in my case, the old timers and beer league hockey, right? But we don't really get together with and interplay with the younger groups in the way that you're doing this on a regular basis. I mean, there might be a fun game here and there or something like that, but I think that's something can be applied to more than just science and education, but
science and education has that I think advantage where the physical limitations do not come much into play, right? It's your experience and it's your whatever knowledge of the world that you can kind of translate into like younger kids. And that's what, like my dad, he is so passionate to spend that 15 minutes with my growing daughter. And although like we teach values to our kids, right, on, hey, yeah, these are, your elders, you got to respect. But you build that respect, and as like that middle ager, that connection is not happening, right? My dad is getting too much into the lecture mode. My kid is kind of, okay, yes, granddad, that's awesome, I'll do that, right? And then the energy is missing, right? That spark is missing, where you need to give them that adrenaline on, hey, where you have just 1 hour to build something, you have to work with this guy, right? And the people who are active above 50, right? They enjoy that. They love that too. That, hey, 1 hour it wasn't really. I
use sports as a quick example, but it just occurred to me too. Like you could do it with art, you could do it with music, you could do it with like the application of bridging that is there in a lot of facets, and I'm actually miffed why it hasn't happened sooner. So we needed you to do it.
Yeah, no, we all play our part, right? It's just part of that. I love that. When I was coming to the town, my friends back in Calgary, they're like, "Yeah, Khurram, I like your life. Good luck. We'll see you after whenever you choose to come back, right?" Yeah, you wait and watch, right? It's just there's always this opportunity. There's always the time. And the time starts when you start taking your first step. Yeah. That's it, right?
Yeah.
So I could have waited 2 months. I did not want to. As we grow older, I think we don't have much. Another good one that I really like is, your most productive time is like 30 to 45 when you're not broke, right? And you're 30 to 45, you start understanding, like, okay, you have some influence in the world, you have some money, you have had some job or whatever. So now it's time to start giving back to the community and kind of, doing your part. Whatever your elders did, now it's your time.
One thing you had mentioned now in our phone conversation that we had is that you're trying to establish, I guess, like a regional, would you say a regional science fair?
Yeah, so that's the second. So this Minecraft for Education is one program.
Okay.
STEAM, especially, sorry, not STEAM. So Minecraft for Education is one program that is more focused towards, I'd say grade 2 to grade 6 and 7.
Right.
From grade 6 to grade 12, there's robotics, there is sciences, environmental sciences, that the kids, like I wanted our kids to have express science as, like, arts as although say arts and science are on the opposite ends, right? But I feel that expression in science is becoming more of a thing too. Hey, if I'm with watching a couple of YouTube videos and having $50 in my hand, I could make my life easier. How? I can have my, for example, small things, but have my curtains or blinds move with the touch of a button. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? It's just learning how the world around us is working, and that is like I've witnessed that back in Calgary, grade 6, grade 7 kids doing. So the second part after Minecraft is really getting into electronics, getting into how our world around us, from a robotics perspective, is working. But it's only not limited to electronics. There's a lot of other research. Like when you get into engineering and sciences, one of the things is how do you research a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Here's a problem. How do you look at it? How do you dissect it? You go with their scientific method, right? You experiment, and then you move on. So that whole scientific method is now promoted through the second program, which is more focused towards grade 6 to 12 kids. And how better to do it than having an open science fair? So in the first year, we partnered with a couple of schools. We had about 60 kids in the first science fair that registered. And when we started that, what we realized was there was a lack of guidance on participating in science fair is a good 3 to 4 month process.
Right.
Right. I could come up over a weekend and come up with a project, but that, like, to have really a good project, it takes about 3 to 4 months of consistent but small time frames, right? So every week you spend an hour or two working on the thing that you're building or the research that you're doing. So out of those 60 kids, probably 40 kids just dropped out.
Oh.
They dropped out over the span of 2 to 3 months.
Right.
So we announced the science fair in November last year, late November, and April was like when the science fair had to be done. So in January, February, kids started to kind of it's not making sense. So we had about 20 odd finalists who actually did complete projects. Out of those, amazing things came out. There's a kid who made us automatic snow shoveler. Oh, wow. There were grade 9 kids who actually developed a beauty product out of lactic acid. That's our local school here, yes, Glenhaven. There's kids who did want to spread the awareness of antibiotics and the use of that and the misuse of that. Right. So it was a research project for her. She also got a prize too. So not just a technical or the robotic side, but environmental sciences, biological sciences, earth sciences, all of those projects. That's when you start getting the kids into, like with the science fair, into expressing themselves as like those science people. Yeah. So anyways, it started, it went off pretty well. Then this year, we've gone like pretty much, I'd say probably 50 times bigger. Wow. We have 13,000 students that can participate now, from Lakeland to Cold Lake. We've got 4 school divisions, including the 2 that operate primarily here, the Spurred and the Center East Francophone, Lakeland Catholic, and Northern Light Division. All the schools, we have a science coordinator this year. So as I was explaining earlier, kids lose that interest over 4 months, right? But if you're science teachers, if you have science coordinators locally at school to kind of help you through that process, the chances are that you'll continue on that, right? And so we have that. We have planned a lot of support material for the kids. Like if I give I have over the last few weeks, I've been working on a handbook for a kid, grade 6. You give him the handbook, and all you need to do as a parent is to make sure that, every 2 weeks, they're just following on those checklists.
Yeah.
I have developed my hypothesis. Here's a resource. Here's how I can develop my hypothesis. Here's how I can do my research. These are some of the websites. Go on to these. This is a template for what you need to fill in to get into the scientific method. So there's a lot of like that handmade material for the students. And then there is that additional support that our team is developing for the teachers. Right. So that, hey, in September, mid-September, follow up with the students. These are some of the things that you need to do. And of course, like it is a suggestion, right? The teachers are really, really good in what they do, but that is more to give them that support because they have 101 other things as well,
right,
other than the science fair, right? So keeping that in mind, there's a lot of like support material for the teachers. There's a lot of support material for the students too. Why the students? Because we just don't want to keep it to like schools.
Right.
There's a lot of homeschooling kids too. Right. And they need that help. So that was in mind on, hey, how can we have more and more? So the idea with that is like once we have people, kids who are expressing themselves in different sciences, these kids, they should, number one, be recognized. Number two, we should be able to give them a little bit of that, where it is going. And that takes us to our third program, which is entrepreneurship.
It's what, sorry?
Pardon my accent. Yep. Entrepreneurship, like entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so business and entrepreneurship. And it's not to, hey, how to start a business.
Right.
It's like how to take your science idea and convert it into a business.
Right.
So if you have, so one of the kids, for example, they developed a snow shoveler, automatic Roomba style snow shoveler. These are grade 7 and 8 kids.
Yeah.
2 of them. They developed that. When they won the science fair money, $100, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do it for the street, right? We're gonna expand this. And of course, you love the excitement too, but you're like, okay, how can you actually get a little bit ahead of that? Not grade 7 and 8, but I'm talking more grade 10, grade 11 students where, hey, you can start a business too,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of funding that is available for rural communities, and especially for digital adoption. There's a couple of kids actually who started working at the pharmacy. Okay. It was a regular job, and regular job required inventory, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Inventory can get extremely boring.
Yeah.
Okay, you're picking up the product, you're looking at the barcode, you're putting it in, then you're also looking at the expiration date. And so I'm like, hey, with the image detection and AI, you guys, and what you have learned in Python through our programs, you can actually create a simple robot that'll just, you need to take one picture of the whole aisle and it'll count and put all of that stuff in, right? Can you start doing that as just a project?
Yeah.
Right? And once you do that, and they have started working on it, once they do that, isn't that a viable business plan? We have like 300 small businesses here in St. Paul. Maybe a few of them might require that one-time project. Hey, can you come in? And for a kid to get $1,000, $500 on that project, that is kind of promoting them into like that business spirit, right?
Mm-hmm. That's how you end up with 22-year-old millionaires, I guess.
Well, I if I can make one 22-year-old millionaire here in this town, that my life would be, I'd die peacefully.
That's awesome. Did you? I mean, this is really blown up in a good way. I should add too is that you came here looking for a science club, didn't find one, started one, and now it is expanded to this big, broad area where you have 13,000 students
that can participate.
Can participate in it. Yeah. Did you ever envision it being that broad, big? It's
no.
Is there any sign of it?
I was kind of surprised to see that the Northeast Alberta pretty much is not participating as an independent science fair. So what this year changed, or when I started and having that science fair, I was like, initially I was thinking, hey, there's like 17 schools around in our vicinity, right? 17 schools is good enough. Like, it'll at least get us some good science projects, and we'll see where we take it up from there. But there's been amazing people in the community. Number one, who really have that pain for the town to take it to the next level, to kind of diversify it. With their help, I understood, hey, Lakeland, Cold Lake, Vermilion, down, I'm talking like all the geography. There's a lot of places where a lot of good work has been put in, but we're not together.
Yeah.
We're not together. Did you know that New Murnum School is one of the best 10 schools in the world?
Yeah.
In environmental sciences?
I actually did know that.
This is surreal, right?
And I've had the pleasure of actually seeing some of the projects they do there with like the hydroponic gardens and stuff like that too. It's
absolutely right.
Yeah.
That was my first second month's project. Of course, you cannot come to town and not know about Mr. Timofeychuk, Robert
Right,
Timofeychuk,
yes.
right? From Penny Fox, from Maureen, from Edna, like all those guys. They know all the greats, right?
Yeah.
So you see that a lot of good work has already been put in.
Yeah.
I, as an organization, nonprofit organization, I look at, okay, yeah, the teachers have done amazing work already. Okay, but one thing that pained me was like, I'm not in it for myself, for like, I don't want to keep doing it for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. The thing was, I want to move on to like different things. I'm more coming from that generation where we have like those commitment, I guess, issues. It's not a 20-year thing for me.
Right.
I'd go in, I'd put in 200%, 500%, 100,000% in it, and I'll take it off the ground. I'd do all the groundwork. I'll connect the people. But what thing that really surprised or concerned me was once these teachers they retire, then what happens?
Yeah.
Like for our town, we had Mr. Bernier. He was running a good high school science club for years, and then he left, and now we're kind of like missing that, right?
Yeah.
The grade 10 to 12 kids who have graduated over the last 3 to 4 or 5 years, they did not have that science exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So what can I do? My biggest challenge is not running these programs.
Right.
I love actually doing this, but most of my time is kind of spent on, okay, how can I build that sustainability in so that it runs?
Mm-hmm.
And that is becoming difficult more and more, because the more I focus on the administrative stuff, which I really don't like to do, it takes time away from me doing some of the programming.
Mm-hmm.
Last 3 weeks I really enjoyed, because I didn't do much administrative work. I actually ran the lab every day here at Portage College. I had 5 kids, and all of them now know Python. Python is a programming language. All of them have worked with circuits and a little bit of those robotics.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them are super excited. We're going to build a big 15 kg carrying load delivery robot that will probably 3D print here at the college. The kids have already, through our programs, have learned how to do 3D printing.
Yeah.
So that is one. The other one is they're building a self-watering irrigation kit. So it's like they have sensors. They know how to work with them now. So they'll put that in our growing lab. By the way, we're growing some plants and vegetables in the lab too, in the innovation lab, which I'll talk about. But so it'll identify, okay, this plant needs so much water or whatever, and if the water is needed, it'll automatically start watering. Some of these projects have already been built by New Murnum in their hydroponics and aquaponics program. But it is more, as I develop those programs, I'm putting those courses out so that any educators in our community who are passionate, they can just come in. The program is laid out, and we just need that continuity on. Yeah, if people have that interest, they come in, We'll get them trained on it. There's actually another kid that I found is a computer science graduate. He found us on Facebook. It's like he's coming and helping because it's his passion too,
Yeah.
right? So now I've got a helping hand on the technical side on as we're training the kids on. We're expanding a little bit more.
I think you may find the more people you involve, the more the solution will present itself to how this is going to sustain itself long term. Is it's eventually these people are just going to take over for you anyways, and
Exactly. Yeah,
continue
that's the
on,
whole
so.
idea. Yeah, exactly.
And I gotta say, like, for only being a year in, it's absolutely amazing. How can people, if they want to reach out and find out more or get involved, where can they start? Do you guys have a website?
We have a website. We have Facebook. We have LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll grab that information and I'll put it in the notes. And I could probably sit here for another 2 hours and listen to you. It's really eye opening that this is happening right now, and I can really appreciate why people have been recommending you to come on this podcast. And I can't believe this has been happening, and so much of this has happened in such a short amount of time. It's pretty amazing what you're telling me here with what these kids do. So congratulations on that. I am going to wrap things up a little bit here because I always believe in leaving the people wanting more. So I have a feeling we're probably going to have to reconnect and do this again and update on some of the progress that's been going on that I know will continue to happen. So the one last question I always ask my guests, and I'm sure you know this one's coming. It'll be hard because I know you've dropped a few names now, but you're here as someone completely interesting. If you were to recommend someone, who would that be?
Believe me, I want to give 5 names or 10 names or 15. Because this is not just me. Why this was so successful is because of a lot of these people, and all of them have like not only their interesting personalities, but their charisma, their passion. All of them have one thing in common, though. They all have a spark,
right?
And that's what really drives me a little bit mad too on how the cities see the rural Alberta as. They're like, yeah, it's just gonna be good luck, man.
We know.
Good luck. I'm like, dude, like, the drive the people have here, the vision, the innovation. Linda Southstorm, right? Yeah, like, you talk to her 15 minutes and it's a packed house.
Yeah.
I need to start taking notes because I just she cannot slow down, right? Same with Mark Billan, same with a lot of like your guests that you have already had on your. So it's amazing to be surrounded with so many people that have that vision and drive.
Wow. What you can do then is maybe just send me a list and I'll start following up with that.
I will definitely send you a list. But I knew that it had to be nailed down to one name too. And the fear of not doing, injustice to others too. I think the most interesting one that I found was Edna Gervais.
Yes. Yeah.
How much energy she has. How much connection, how much passion, how much vision she has, not just for the town, but for you as a human being too. She has been my. I'm a grown up adult, but like doing this nonprofit work.
Yeah.
There are times when people are like, yeah, why? Like, this is useless. Well, like, not just directly, but you're like, well, you have your down moments, right? And she has been my crying shoulder. And the way she has a knack to bring you back on good work.
Yeah.
Keep up doing the good work. Here's a couple of connections. Here's a couple of things.
Yeah.
Her ability to find out solutions out of like nothing is amazing. After the podcast, I'll show you how the innovation lab really was and what it is today. Like 90% of the credit actually goes to her. I just rented out, and that rent was forgiven by Portage College for my Minecraft, because they also are super visionary.
Right.
And I could give you 5 names right there to interview too. But she was like, hey, Khurram, we have the space. This is Wood's lab or whatever. I envision your innovation lab idea to be here. 3 months later, she gets the work done, get the college like that, get that room cleaned up. And if I show you the pictures, it'll blow your mind. It'll be on our website too. I'm actually trying to do a feature because we are almost hitting 1 year. So there'll be a lot of like how this started and what it has turned into.
And I would mind sharing that with our social media as well with Pool and Radio. So if you're okay with that, I'd like to share that too and give people the illustration of it. So this has been one of the most enlightening podcasts I've ever done. No, extremely interesting. Absolutely. The definitive of what this is about. So I want to thank you for that. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast as much as I have. You can find it on your favorite podcast provider by searching Pool and Radio. If you like and subscribe through your favorite podcast provider, you'll be guaranteed you never miss an episode. And also through our social media, follow us, see what's happening in and around. We have a lot of fun with this little enterprise here, my little hobby. It's on social media through just by Facebook, Instagram, searching Pool and Radio. And of course, I will share some of the links to how you can find out more about this incredible project that's just blew up in the last year. I don't know how to explain what I'm hearing here, but thank you so much for explaining it and enlightening me. My guest once again, Khurram Abbasi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.